politics, breaking down economies, but it's with a twist. Reacting to news, expose the truth. Hosted by Mara with a Christian worldview. Yeah, the true king is Jesus. You ain't gotta wonder why the world's at war. Governments may crumble. These chaotic times, it's the light we chose. Removing the veil, everything exposed. You ready? Let's go.
Hey, ¿cómo vamos todos aquí en Exposed? Hoy vamos a tener un programa totalmente diferente. Tenemos invitados de lujo y queremos desarrollar un programa realmente orientado a la parte política. Va a ser un programa que va a tener un ingrediente especial, ¿verdad? Tenemos un invitado de Estados Unidos, de la parte demócrata, y pues vamos a poder ver diferentes aristas y puntos de vista en relación a esto. O sea que dentro de un par de minutos este live va a cambiar a inglés, ¿verdad? Entonces, déjenme revisar algo que traíamos por aquí. Entonces, eso sería, ¿verdad? Básicamente lo que nosotros vamos a hablar es cómo un hombre que regresa en este caso, Estados Unidos, a la posición de presidente, puede cambiar una nación, ¿verdad? Puede ser bueno, puede ser malo. Realmente, pues, esos son los temas que nosotros tenemos que abordar y en base a esto, pues, vamos a revisar varias cositas, ¿verdad? Entonces, sí es importante poder tener un criterio amplio en el sentido de que vamos a encontrarnos con puntos de vista diversos, ¿verdad? Entonces, tenemos que estar claros como tal. Ahora bien, yo creo que es importante darle paso también a Gustavo, que es el co-host del programa, para que nos hable un poco de esto y ya poder hacer el switch a inglés para que nuestra invitada especial se nos pueda unir. Entonces, aquí vamos a cambiar un pelín a inglés. Welcome to Exposed. Today marks an history and polarizing moment as Donald Trump, as you know, assumes office once again as President of the United States. Love him or hate him. I mean, at the end of the day, his return to the power promised to shake the political landscape. So we're going to get ready. And for now, let's welcome to Gus to the show. And let's see what's going on. Gus, can you hear me?
I can hear you very, very well indeed. Good morning. Good afternoon, brother. How are you, Mauro?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine. You? How are you?
I'm very good. Here in lovely, I'm trying to move my camera here. There seems to be there's always a bit of an askew angle from where I am. Here in lovely Italy, we're trying to look at what's going on. We're trying to see and understand what might happen in the next couple of years and to what's going to happen in the US. Everything, though, is a bit all over the place, right? Everything is very hard to understand. It's very hard to, in a way, guess what's going to happen. And I think part of it is the fact that we're standing always within, as we say, our ecosystem. We always talk to each other that think the way we do, that share our own opinions. And perhaps that's why today might be a very good time to, again, confront, share ideas and opinions with someone that's perhaps on the other side of the street. Someone that perhaps doesn't see things the way we do, and that's a chance for us to have an enriching conversation.
Exactly. And then I think that to help us to unpack these critical issues that we've been talking, as you said, we have a phenomenal guest. She's a veteran educator, relentless fact checker, and as well as a blue dot on the Red Sea, and listen, this is going to be amazing. And beyond the politics, she dedicates, her time as well, helping Asians to communicate, improve their English, and he's self-proclaiming, number one fan of Jack Smith. So we have many questions prepared, for her, so she can tell us a little more about him. So let's welcome Gracie to the show. What's going on? Gracie, can you hear
Hi.
us?
Hello, hello.
Go on.
Can you hear us okay?
Can you hear us?
Um, I'm hearing a feedback.
Like a feedback.
Hearing
I'm hearing a
feedback.
delay.
Okay.
I
Hearing
think it's
feedback,
because
okay.
you have opened your YouTube window, or maybe it's because of that, or you are seeing the show
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
now.
Is it better
It is.
now?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
better
There you
now.
go. Lovely. All solved.
Yeah.
Technical issues
I
aside.
know.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But now
Thank you.
we're good to go.
Thank you for
Well,
having
of
me.
course.
I'm spending the day avoiding the disaster that's taking place in the United States.
Ah, okay.
Well, that's very interesting. And let's start with that then, shall we? Well, first of all, again, thank you very much for joining us, and that's a very good, strong statement from you. So, may I ask, why would you, or rather, why do you describe it as a disaster? It's very strong words.
Yes, it's a very
Yes.
strong word.
Yeah. Well, it's the first time in American history that the American citizens have brought into power someone who is a felon, who is a convicted felon.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so that,
I'm devastated. I can't believe there were 3 million more people who voted for him than his biggest contender, which was Kamala Harris. And it's I'm almost speechless. I can't believe this guy bamboozled so many people. He's not a good guy. He's a failed businessman who has propped himself up on his connections. He's propped himself up on big loans from people that he knows. He doesn't pay back his banks. And he's been bankrupt 4 times. He bankrupted a casino. How do you bankrupt a casino? He did it twice, the same one. Yeah,
no,
that's
sure, no, I get it. Yeah. It's very interesting, although, because again, you have this very, very strong opinions, which by all means we respect 100%. But that makes me think, because we have heard this, people saying this before many times. He's a liar. He's not a good person, and he's
yeah.
not a good business. But then again, as you said, 3 million people voted him more than the other candidate. So there has to be something in him that makes him still a better candidate. That is, or perhaps is a less worse option. That might be it. I don't know. Where do you reckon is or rather, why do you reckon people have continued to again vote for him, even though there might be all these other aspects that are less agreeable about him?
That's the $1 million question, Gus. What that there are a lot of people that are uninformed, and there are a lot of people who voted with their purse. Really, they remembered Trump during his first term, and during his first term, aside from mishandling COVID and sending advanced technology to Vladimir Putin that we needed, he happened to be president when gas prices were very, very low, groceries were very low. We didn't have that global inflation at the time going on. And people just look back and they say, I could afford a lot more when he was in office. And he's making those same promises now. And, so people just kind of fell for that hook, line, and sinker. And of course, there are others who just believe. I mean, there are so many different factions within the Trump movement. There's the hardcore MAGA, and they believe absolutely everything he says, even though he lies all the time.
Sure.
And there were, I mean, I go on Truth Social, which is his social media platform, and he has about 8.5 million there. It's not a huge following. I expected more. I'm like, where are the 77 million? You know, where are they?
Sure.
But you know,
No.
people voted with their purses and being uninformed. And honestly, I think there's a lot of people out there that weren't ready for a Black woman to be president.
Right, right. So you said
Right.
in a way we are sort of behind as a society. So we're not ready for some changes or changes at some level, and that in a way there's sort of payback for that. Well, if you're not ready for that, then well, you have Trump to as your other choice, basically. That's interesting. Mauro, do you have anything? So would you like to jump in with anything?
No, yes. I just have a question for Gracie. For example, what does Trump's return means for the future democracy in America, for example, according to your view?
Well, in an interview during the election cycle, he stated that he was willing to use the military against American citizens. And everyone who had sort of turned a blind eye to the conspiracy, the insurrection that happened on January 6th of 2021, I honestly don't understand how that wasn't a deal breaker. And in July of 2024, he was being indicted for conspiracy. I don't think it was, the wording wasn't insurrection. It was something less. Attempting to overturn the 2020 U.S. presidential election. So he's a cheater, and it's well documented that he did attempt to cheat, and he engaged others in the cheating. And if you look at Jack Smith's 165-page report, he took all the people that were around Trump at that time and interviewed them, and he has sworn testimony from all of them, not a Democrat among them. They're all Republicans. They're all surrogates, his lawyers, his advisors. Some people have been named co-conspirators. They all say that he knew he lost, but Rudy Giuliani is the one who was the brains behind some of the scheming, and he convinced him to go along with it. And Trump, because Trump didn't want to leave, he just didn't want to leave. So that the background, and some people don't pay attention to that. And I might like to talk about how the Biden administration really dropped the ball there. And I do blame the Biden administration for dropping the ball. I blame Merrick Garland.
That, yeah. So that's something that we came up with, Mauro, a couple of months ago when we did the original episode on Trump, as to why perhaps it wasn't so much Trump being amazing as a candidate at that time, but it's the shortcomings of Biden, as what everyone saw was a blazing lack of so many things, and one is short to try to enumerate them. So let me be short there, and I just did. But in your view, what was the biggest shortcomings that Biden had that sort of pushed a lot of people to vote for Trump? From as an outsider, or as two outsiders rather, it was easy to understand in the sense, you have an aging president, not perhaps fully with it, easy to mock in a way, which again, it doesn't justify anything, but it's an easy thing to see. But what did you see from the inside? What were you able to see that we weren't able to see from the outside?
I saw very quickly during the second presidential debate that Biden was unfit. He's
Right.
just
Right.
unfit.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the cognitive abilities to converse, to talk about issues, to not stumble, to be confident. And he is older. And the rumors going around were that the administration, the insiders knew this for a long time and allowed him to stay. I mean, he
Right.
also had an indictment about national security documents, misstorage of them, mishandling of them. And when Biden was interviewed regarding those charges, it was cited that he had so many memory problems that he could not be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened
Not the best defense.
This happened while he is president. So I'm terribly upset that was allowed to go on, and he should have. First of all, he said when he was inaugurated or shortly afterwards, he was just a transitional president. I'm not gonna stay past 4 years, and then he, I don't know, his narcissism got the best of him, but he decided to stay on, and it was to the Democrats' detriment.
Sure. And were there not any sort of safeguards within the party to stop that from happening, or rather to prevent it? Because, again, from the outside, we didn't see any figures that were able to contest his authority or lack thereof, in a way. The best they could come up with was Kamala Harris. Was there anything, or rather, why wasn't the system better prepared to, again, have another candidate in place that was a better fit and a better opponent to Trump?
Well, that's another $1 million question. Why weren't his insiders being honest with him? And I mean, the rumors are that he just refused. He just said, I'm fine. And so, and then Kamala Harris.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's not much recourse there. And when he finally, agreed to let Harris run, it was done too late. And not on the right, everyone was talking about how this isn't democracy. Not a single person cast a vote for her. And it was true. No one voted for her to run. The DNC just kind of said, we're going to look at some people, and I think there was a lot of political pressure to support her as the VP. And so that's how she got in that mess. And she wasn't, I mean, I voted for her, but I don't mind voting.
To avoid the greater evil, perhaps, in your view. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And that in a way sort of speaks about the lack of preparation, the lack of a proper structure in place in the Democratic Party, so as to, again, stop that from happening in the future. Let's hope that, again, in the future, one is able to see a better prepared party, because I think Mauro and I always agree on this, regardless where your side is, where you stand, Democratic or whatever it is, you have to have a good opponent that enriches you and embetters you. I want to have someone in front of me that makes me better, not somebody, I can be in a heartbeat. Exactly, absolutely. And it's something I find very interesting, because you did mention that Biden had an indictment as did Trump, of course. So that no one is perfect in a way. Neither him nor Trump had this perfect aura that perhaps one would expect from a future president. So this, I think, is something we can agree on, and it does make me think about, if that didn't matter enough to the average American citizen, what did matter? Beyond, we could say, okay, well, they were bamboozled, they didn't think enough, they didn't have enough education, etc. But there must have been other aspects within what Trump was bringing to the table, or offering to bring to the table, that still made it interesting.
He, as Hitler did, identified an enemy, and
Right.
they were the immigrants. And he built his campaign around mass deportations. And I honestly, I'm upset about the border too.
Right.
I'm upset that the immigration system is in such a tangle, it's a labyrinth that doesn't have any good solution right now, because we don't hold people. Once you apply for asylum or whatever, they're not going to hold you somewhere until your next court date, when they decide on whether you actually get that. So you get released. And some of these, people have come in and just never reported back to the court system that they were supposed to. Some, come in entirely illegally. And Americans see footage of that. They see them, coming under the fence in certain places. And there's not enough immigration judges right now. That's something that Biden should have fixed. He had 4 years to do that, and he did not.
Yeah, I didn't.
And they were just derelict in their duties as far as the border goes. And so Trump, in his first term, also was identifying an enemy, and they were the immigrants then too. That's when the chant was build the wall, build the wall. And of course he said Mexico would pay for it. And the former Mexican president came out and said, I'm not paying for that
Exactly.
wall,
Yeah.
So we don't know. I mean, the American public is kind of waiting to see if these mass deportations are another wall, just a lot of bluster.
True.
Or whether they're going to be ripping children out of schools. Or, I mean, have you seen his border czar, his immigration czar, Tom Homan? Yeah, he's pretty.
But yes, yeah. Yeah, it's true. Although one could say, that what he did try to do after realizing there were some massive loopholes in the system was to try and fix them. And again, I'm not trying to say he did an absolute amazing job, but he was trying to fix the existing loopholes and trying to enforce existing laws regarding that. So I think my view is that he did make very good use of the whole system, creating, as you say, an enemy, so to speak. Let's go against that. But I'm inclined to thinking it was more noise than anything else. But again, I'm not an expert. This is from, again, what I'm able to see from where I'm standing. But again, you know, since you're living in Central America, you do have another angle at the whole immigration thing. What is the feeling in Honduras and in Central America in general when the issue of immigration and Trump comes up?
In Honduras?
Yes, I was asking Mauro.
Yeah, I'm from Honduras. Yeah, and everyone here is like scared about this immigration things, and so can you give us a hint of what's going on? What do you think is going to happen now?
Who knows? That's the thing with Trump. He's not measured. He's
Right.
not he's not predictable. He says one thing and then attitudes around him change. Someone gets in his ear and he may say something completely the opposite. Immigration's a good example. There are, the faction in the Republican Party that are MAGA. That's what we call them, MAGA.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They are diehard. These are hardcore Trump supporters, and they will support him until they die. They pray to him, not to him, but for him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Online on his social media, but there's a faction of them that is for no legal immigration. They don't want this H-1B in effect at all. And that's when companies bring you in legally to work for them. So he was expected by some in the Republican Party to reject that. And he is when he found out Elon Musk was all for it, his tune changed.
Hmm.
So he does. That's the thing. He has no core values. He,
I understand. Yeah, yeah, no, it's a valid point of view. I think in a way one can counter argue, say, well, that's what most politicians do. They don't have a very strong value. And I'm not comparing to the ones that people tend to like the most, but in general, being a politician does tend to mean being flexible with one's views, to accommodate to the changing environment. But yeah, Mauro, do you happen to have any questions, Mauro?
No, just trying to think about what Gracie said about Trump and all those things. Listen, I know. I mean, no one is going to be like 100% good or perfect in his political things or so bad. So I know many bad things have been said about Trump, but do you think, I mean, so somehow, do you believe that Trump will accomplish anything good, during his presidency, or do you think his leadership maybe will only deepen the division in the country? Because nowadays, better than anyone, better than us, that United States is like divided into like or Trump or the Democrat Party or stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, the guy has to have something good, at least one or two things like that he's gonna do something good for the country. So that's my question. That's my question.
Is there a silver lining to Trump? I guess that's the
Exactly.
question. We'll take that silence as a perhaps no.
nothing is
Not
coming to
opinion.
mind.
Sure,
Nothing
sure,
good.
sure.
Nothing good you think he's gonna do in
Americans, the ones that are discerning, are distraught to see our justice system work in the way that it has in this past year. So he's gotten away with the 2020 election fraud. That's
Sure.
been dismissed with prejudice, but it's dismissed, and it sat there for almost 4 years, and we're not seeing a lot of faith right now in
Sure.
our our justice system. And when Trump got the ruling from the Supreme Court this past summer that he has presidential immunity, mind you, when he's confronting all of these criminal cases, he never says he didn't do it. And he's done interviews where he said he had every right to interfere But he's never said he didn't do it. His lawyers never argued that he didn't do it. They just say, "Oh, he's got immunity," and
Yeah,
so
sure. Yeah, yeah. I think is very interesting is, the fact that it's such a divisive figure and it's such an emotional figure in a way that I think both parties find it very difficult to see the full picture. And I'm not saying you as a person, as an individual, but whenever I see, media from one side or the other, there tends to be this, again, one side or the other, very markedly. There doesn't seem to be any one voice, or at least I find it very difficult to find any one voice that says, okay, he was good, but, or he was bad, but something again shows us a bit more of the other sides to the character. I was trying to think about, for example, well, the whole climate change thing and how him denying climate change has been again such a step back for many
yeah,
reasons. He drew back from the Paris Agreement, but on the other hand, he did manage to bring pollution down to 2% from what it used to be. So he brought it down, not necessarily through the agreement per se, because it wasn't in any longer, but through avoiding red tape and trying to work on other sort of measures. Racism and all these things that, again, one is very right to have a voice against racism. We never support racism. Let me be very clear about this. But
yeah,
it's one of the things that we say about Trump. But on the other hand, he did fund massively historically black universities, for example, more than they had ever been funded in history. So, and those are the things I think we kind of contest, like black is black and white is white. So, those are the things that perhaps I find very interesting about what's going on right now, as is the case with other countries we usually discuss and are familiar with. That we have this emergence of these very, very strong leadership figures that in a way they go to what Mauricio was saying, say love you or hate him. It's very hard to find a common ground in which
No, you're
one
not
is
gonna
able
find
to
a common ground. Like you're gonna hate him or love him. The guy.
exactly. That's perhaps where the powers lie. It's trying to think about, okay, I can capitalize on these extreme feelings that I create within people. Do you think this might be a somewhat correct analysis?
that there are some positives associated with Trump.
Well, I think that the positives or negatives, I think that's we can go through data and find them or not. I'm sure there are some positives, but beyond that, I think is the idea that one as a leader capitalizes on making people love him or hate him. At the end of the day, if people hate you, you'll still be creating news. You're creating, stories and social media and whatever it is. Your name is going to be out there. So in a way, that is power. That is, people don't forget they talk about you, whether it be negative or positive.
It's hard
I wonder when it's not
to
orchestrated.
it's hard to speak even on a policy level when you're talking about Trump, because he's just such a loose cannon. I mean, he threatened Canada.
Yeah. Yes.
He's
Yeah,
threatened
sure.
Greenland. He's threatened Panama.
Yeah,
He's
it's
threatening
true. Panama just recently. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
No, sure. My question is, or rather, my point is, and I agree with you. I watch news as much as you do, less than you, American news, but I'm aware of those things. But I'm wondering, is it not orchestrated? Is it not just a whole plan to keep the name up? They keep talking about me, Trump, while I say these, outlandish things that I may never do. They may never translate onto real policy. They may translate onto a real plan. It's just a good idea to just say them, because in that way, at least, my name is always being talked about on social media. Yeah.
Yes, I think he says outrageous things just to stay in the news every day, honestly.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
And
Sorry, please, I interrupted you. Please.
Go on.
it conveys to me that an immaturity, and I believe he is actually a narcissist. clinical sense. So that would make sense that he wants, to be in the news every day. Um, and but you don't want that sort of carelessness in the leader of the free world.
True. True. No, I completely understand it. And again,
Go
yeah.
on a TV show. I mean, that's where he was made, is a television show. And
True.
go. And I think in his mind, it is a TV show.
True.
This
Yeah, I
is
think
all just
it's part
this is
of
all
his
just his
personality.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah, it has
But
to.
on the other hand, you don't want someone that's so irrelevant like Biden. So, there
right.
has to be perhaps, a middle ground. You have either this huge personality, which one may love or hate, and then Biden, which we don't even remember him being there, actually. So,
Right.
yeah, it's one should have a middle ground. And perhaps this shouldn't be a learning, or rather a lesson for all of us. Can we come up with a leader that is more cohesive in the way, leads the country? Can we come up with a better Democratic Party, a better Republican Party, better parties in general that are able to generate better leaders?
I think what Trump did was what he did as a businessman was he just wrote a bunch of checks to people and called in favors. And I
Yeah.
think he did that with the Republican Party. And he's openly threatened to primary senators and representatives if they don't go along with him. He said, I will primary you. And
Right.
it's been reinforced by Elon Musk saying, I've got the money to do it. And you're out if you don't go along hook, line, and sinker with what we want to do. This is not a democracy. It's not.
Yeah.
You-
Yeah.
But you think
How do you reckon? Sorry, Mauro, please go
No,
ahead.
no, I was about to tell you if you really think like he's gonna do it, like it's gonna be able to do all those threatening. It's it's quite complicated, just to say like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I don't know. And at the end of the day, I think there are things like it make noise to me, in like Trump managed things. For example, I don't know. What do you think about the woke movement? Like
oh my goodness.
he's been saying like it's against this woke movement. Like, what do you think about these things? Because this is something very important on US right now.
That is a whole can of worms in and of itself, which would probably be worthy of a whole session. But what
true.
happened was that the right started out back in right after the civil rights movement, aligning not with desegregation. The right decided to become the party of morality. And
Right.
the banner that they took up was the anti-abortion banner.
Mhm.
And sorry, could you rephrase that? I think I got sidetracked.
Which part?
Whichever part you ask.
No, I mean, one of the things, like for me, it's very
the woke
important. It's very important to know about the U.S. How you see these things, about the woke movement, all the things about gender, abortion, and all this, because you have to remember something. Donald Trump, it's completely against these things. Even though today he was saying, like he will start talking about God and God this and God that and God this, and then at the end he said, and I'm gonna it's only two genders, it's men and female, and that's all, and I'm gonna put it away, all those things, all those crazy things about that you can be an dolphin, a horse, or a woman if you're a man, and all those things, and this is it's I think people that are watching us, they have been asking me about this kind of question, like, what do you really think about this, about Donald Trump? If he's going to be something like, I don't know, something serious about it, like he's gonna do it? He really is gonna do these things? He's gonna change these woke movements and all those things?
Well, he has the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that has been rolled back. So corporations no longer have to meet any kind of quota. And even McDonald's recently said, we're not doing that anymore. We're not going to even pretend to adhere to that.
Yeah.
And, I think trans people, for instance, get caught in the crossfire there because, and I'm not for that. I may not agree with what they did, and I believe that for the most part, you're male or female. I don't like hearing, I too, I'm a new kind of Democrat. I don't like having to refer to pronouns like fairy or them or they. I think that was another failure on the Democratic Party, is they've aligned so far with the lunatic fringe.
That's true.
And
That's true. You're
you know
right.
what I mean? Not literally
Yeah.
lunatics, but the lunatic fringe that's going to promote and put those things out there and demand acceptance. That it lost a lot of people. There's some very common sense Democrats, even though Trump he's called us all communists. That's how we are labeled. I got called a commie on Facebook the other day.
Right.
That's
Yeah, well, everyone knows Facebook is not, the image of sanity, but yes.
right.
Yeah, but perhaps, I think the market and culture in general will sort of put things in their own place. I think any company will want to hire people. I think anyone with that's mildly intelligent hires people because they're good, not because of the genitalia. And that's the basis on which all companies ought to work. And if they don't, well, they may fail or do well according to other aspects of their business. So in a way, I think this has been one of these flags that have been held upon and hailed as very important. Whereas in reality, perhaps it's just one of those things that make a lot of noise. It's good to talk about. It keeps your name up there. But if the economy goes well, if everything is where it should be, perhaps we'll stop discussing these things as much. Perhaps that's my theory. Things fall into place with time, and again, if we have a judicial system that works the way it should, I'm not saying it does right now. If we have an economy that works, I'm not saying it does right now, but if it does work, then perhaps less important issues will be so dominant in the sphere. Again, market dictates everything, I feel, and politics rather aligns with it. But it's very interesting the fact that as you say, you yourself, you don't fully align with what was the Democratic Party, what it is right now, the things that they talk about or they profess that they're super important, whereas actually the spectrum is very wide. There's many types of Democrats. There's many types of 100%. It's very interesting. Sure.
And
sure.
Democrats kind of got put in this category where the perception was that we were all for open borders, obviously, even,
Right.
come on in. That's not true. That perception needs to be changed if we're going to win.
Sure. The
I
same
mean,
could be
that's
said from the other side, though, because not all, from the other side, they're not all Nazis. So again, it goes both ways. I think both sides need to perhaps acquire some hindsight and see, well, how can we best look into what we have in common, what we both want, rather than what separates us. But perhaps I'm being too idealistic.
I think so.
Yeah. I realized after I said it.
What I look at, is what party is eroding my votes?
Right.
What party is working to erode voting rights right now? And right now is the GOP. So, and yeah, that's fascism, and I mean that could quickly become fascist. Um, yeah, there's two big things going on in North Carolina right now, that and it's the only race in the country that hasn't been called, and it's between two Supreme Court nominees, and
Yeah.
it's just another example of the Republicans working on the state levels to disenfranchise voters.
Sure. No,
And if
100%.
that's what people call Nazis, I don't, that it's an erosion of rights. So
Yeah.
that's what I have
Yeah.
a problem with.
No, 100%. And again, anything that goes against, people voting for what they want to vote for, and people expressing themselves freely, and that translating onto power, I think we're all fully against that as well. It has to
Right.
be a legitimate action, from the beginning to the very end. So 100% completely agree with that. Going back a little bit, we were discussing again what the new era might look like. And from again where we are in the outside, it's interesting to see, for example, the figure of Musk taking so much importance. Is become it has become very very much one of the talking points. And I'm not quite sure I fully get what he's after, beyond the obvious quest for power and money. But is there anything else behind that? And do you have any views about that? I'm curious.
Well, I think he's after power. He's already got all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All the money
yeah,
in the world.
yeah. True.
And I do feel like he pretty much bought Trump, with help. There was a lot of propaganda going around during the election cycle, and and I don't know if you're on X, but Elon
No.
Musk spews it continuously. That's why I left X.
Right. And how do you think that might translate onto concrete events or concrete actions that we may be able to see in the next couple of years? How things will be different again from Musk being there, that it wouldn't otherwise happen.
Well, he has business interests in China, some pretty big ones. So that may start or may have an effect on policy. We'll just have to find out. We didn't elect Musk, and
Yeah.
there's a joke among the left. We call him President Musk, and we don't know his game yet. We just know that he's got the most money in the whole world, and he helped Trump get where he was. So he's after something.
Sure. No, definitely, that's very interesting. Mauro, do you happen to have any questions? I think you'd like to ask Grace since she's
What
kindly giving time.
To be honest, no. I think I mean Grace has been like very clear, in her statement. It's very nice to know this, this thoughts and all those things. To be honest, for me, I mean, I know Trump is not a perfect person at all, like like none of us. But I think the guy, from the point of view, like the guy has a family, the guy has a values somehow. I think the guy wants to, like this MAGA thing says, like make America great again. It's right. This is how it calls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's.
I think if the guy is going to do something good for the country, I think it's good to to give him a chance. I was hearing yesterday a podcast from a guy called Andy Frisella. Yeah, the guy, he's from Italy, and the guy, he was talking about these things, about Trump and all those things. And at the end of the day, I like the way that he stated something, and he said, "I'm not loyal to Democrats or Republicans. I'm loyal to the president, to the people who's gonna do something good for the country. Because at the end of the day, I think this is what we want, as a citizen of any country. At the end of the day, so it's it's quite interesting. As you said, Donald Trump has been doing like very shady things, or things like it's like a, a little bit controversial and all those stuff. But at the end of the day, I think the guy has to be something good for America. Even though, if I'm not quite wrong, I think in the economic matters, some economists says that he managed things better than Joe Biden, and that he will do it better again. So I think I don't know. You are living there. You are living there, Gracie, in U.S. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. North Carolina, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So I think that you are living there. I mean, it has to wait and see what's going on in the few years, man. I don't know. Gus, what do you think about it?
No. I think, well, first of all, it's been interesting to have Grace here, because you do have your very strong opinions, which is great,
Exactly.
because it allows us to again confront what we think and when we may be wrong. And as I was saying before, the idea is not to say, well, listen, you guys are wrong, we are right, or vice versa.
Exactly. No.
Is to see where one can find common ground and where we all agree, which I think is the essentials. We want to live in a better world, in a better country. We want to have a president that represents us. I know that in some areas, in some regards, this is not the case with Trump. As unfortunately, it wouldn't have been the case with Kamala Harris. So
Exactly.
we're starting, I think, in a situation in which there's more shortcomings and then there's more mistakes along the way than there have been good things. And perhaps it's an opportunity for, again, both parties, any coming leaders in the future, to see, well, what can we learn from this and how can we do things better?
Yeah. I think right now is, well, maybe in the next year, we'll see what happens economically and with foreign policy uh,
It's all too
and
fresh now to say.
yes,
Yeah.
but I can say that I would hope that whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, that you would be concerned about your rights to vote. And
100%.
that's basic. And right now is the Republicans that are usurping power in the state court system and the local courts, and that's very troubling. So I think it may come down to the people versus the power, rather than Democrat versus Republican.
Exactly.
We'll see how first year goes and see what shakes down and how we kind of come down on some of the major issues that unfold.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. At the end of
100%.
the day, as you say, the power should be with the people. People should be able to decide, and their votes ought to be respected, rightfully represent them in all we do. So 100%. Well,
Yeah.
I think, Gracie, thank you very, very much for today. It has been a real pleasure having you here. Looking forward to perhaps, having another chat in the near future.
That would be
Exactly.
great.
Thank you,
Lovely,
Gracie,
lovely.
for
Well, thank you
being
very
here
much
in the
again.
show.
Thank both of you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Well, Gus, what do you think about... A ver. Gus, primo.
Ya es hora, sí, ya cambiamos el switch, ¿verdad?
Now switch to Spanish. Ajá, ¿cómo viste?
Exactly, as I was saying. Mira, a ver, como decíamos con Grace, para la gente que tal vez no nos pudo seguir, interesantísimo tener una invitada que, como decíamos recién, ¿verdad? Tiene una opinión diferente.
Sí, tiene
pero
opiniones
con la
bien
cual-
fuertes y totalmente en contra de Trump. ¿Ah?
Absolutamente.
A full.
Yo lo que... A full. Yo me quedé así... con la... Sí.
Mira, al final yo creo que está bien tener posturas encontradas, ¿verdad? Yo como le decía a ella, yo no creo que nadie vaya a ser tan mal, ¿verdad? De que no vaya a ser algo bueno. O sea,
Bueno, no, exacto. Además, yo creo que ese no era el momento para hacer, una sesión, de fact-checking, esto y aquello, porque obviamente la invitada tiene que ser respetada y que se sienta cómoda en el lugar. Así que eventualmente en otra sesión podemos hacer vos y yo una sesión en la que hablemos justamente de lo que se dice acerca de Trump versus lo que realmente ha hecho. Eso podría ser interesante. Pero en todo caso, yo pienso muy enriquecedor haber podido tener a una persona a punto en la cual piensa diferente a nosotros, pero se ha podido conversar con mucha tranquilidad y pensar justamente en lo que se puede construir de aquí en más, errores hechos en el pasado de ambas partes, ¿verdad? Y a ver cómo hacemos para que la cosa salga adelante, que al final lo que nos interesa es eso, ¿verdad?
sí, tal cual. Te repito, bueno, hoy para Estados Unidos, pues, un día complicado. O sea, no complicado, yo creo que para uno es complicado, ¿verdad? Así como Gracie decía, que para ella fue una cuestión catastrófica, un día como hoy.
Sí.
Pero yo creo que para otros, pues, fue un buen día. Y,
No, va a haber gente que esté jubilosa, va a haber gente que esté festejando.
sí, cabal. Y yo creo que hay que dejarlo desarrollar esta vez a Trump. Me gustó esa parte que decías que realmente, mira, si bien es cierto, el tipo es como una personalidad, una personalidad de la televisión, pero yo creo que es importante tener una persona, como vos bien decías, así, con esa personalidad, con ese ímpetu de líder, ¿verdad? Que
Claro.
no, no así como Biden, por ejemplo.
No, va a haber que tomar el pulso cada 5 minutos, está muerto.
Correcto,
Entonces,
correcto.
ese es el problema. Sí. Y además de eso, yo pienso que tenemos una tendencia mundial de líderes fuertes. Tenés, a Bolsonaro, tenés a Milei, tenés a Meloni. En general se está desarrollando mucho esa cosa, del líder fuerte que toma las riendas, bien o mal. No estamos diciendo justamente que sean sujetos de absoluta bondad y excelencia y que les vaya bien, por cierto, en todo lo que hagan. Pero yo pienso que estamos en un periodo en el cual nos hace falta un líder a punto con esas características. Y más allá de eso, como vos bien decías, hay que ver cómo se desarrolla. No es ni blanco ni negro. Hay que ver lo que va a hacer Trump y a ver otra cosa, lo que dice que va a hacer versus lo que va a realmente
Lo que va a hacer, sí. Por eso le decía yo a ella que realmente todas esas amenazas que va a hacer, realmente él puede hacer eso. Porque tampoco se va a sentar como Nerón, como un dictador, y aquí hago lo que yo quiera hacer, o sea, no funciona así.
No, es que más allá de que pueda o no pueda, que
Ujú.
realmente estoy de acuerdo con vos. Tenemos un congreso, etcétera, las cosas se
Ujú.
votan. No estamos en la Cuba castrista, en la cual lo que digo yo se hace. Pero más allá de eso, el tipo es inteligente, por lo cual no va a hacer cosas que vayan a ir en detrimento de lo que va a ser su continuidad en el poder. Entonces, si hay una cosa que es demasiado loca y no la hace, va a haber algún motivo. O no lo dejan, o realmente fue una cosa que en su momento se dijo para generar charla, para generar buzz, para generar justamente que se hable de él, pero que no pase de eso. Lo que en sí mismo es ya una estrategia política.
Ujú.
Pasa que, bueno, tal
Ujú.
vez estamos en los albores de este modo de tratar la política y nos cuesta reconocerla como tal. O sea, no, esto es un bocón y listo. Realmente, bueno, si es un bocón y listo, pero nos tiene ahora hablando de eso y lo trajo a la presidencia, es que su valor político como estrategia existe. Entonces, bueno, tal vez reconocerlo como tal y no solamente decir, bueno, son cosas que se dicen y chao, ¿verdad? Hay un porqué.
Sí, claro. Claro, claro.
Sí, sí, sí.
Bueno, yo digo que hay que esperar. Al final del día hay que darle tiempo al hombre, pues, y a ver qué tal.
Sí, sí, sí. Bueno,
Aquí, como le dije yo a ella, pues la gente está preocupada con esa cuestión de las deportaciones, va, y que un país como el
¿verdad?
nuestro, se me olvidó decirle que este man hasta, no, la presidenta nuestra había amenazado a Trump de que si mandaban ese montón de inmigrantes, íbamos a cerrar la base militar aquí en Palmerola, ¿va? Pero imagínate
Claro.
ponerte a pelear con los gringos, que al final del día, o sea, no, por lo menos un
No,
país como
claro,
el nuestro no puede.
obviamente, claro. En su momento la mina seguramente lo dijo porque no podía no decirlo, no podía no responder. O sea, algo
Ujú.
tuvo que decir. Pero realmente, como decimos, a la hora de la hora, ¿quién va a hacer algo? O sea, yo pienso que en realidad ninguno de los dos va a hacer nada. Aparte porque Trump, por lo que estuvimos viendo también, no es un objetivo de destruir familias ni mucho menos.
Sí,
Estaba simplemente implementando con mayor fuerza leyes ya establecidas. Y ahí, bueno, obviamente cada uno en su patio, ¿verdad?
que mira, al final del día, yo creo que ahí es lo que vos decís. O sea, es tu país, son tus leyes, tenés que respetarlas
De acuerdo.
y bueno, y tenés que hacer lo mejor para tu país como tal. Entonces, para mí
Sí.
venir y mira, me gustó mucho ese podcast de The Motherfucker CEO, así se llama, de Andy Frisella. Es buenísimo. Y el man decía ayer, mira, yo no soy leal ni a los demócratas ni a los republicanos, que él es más corriente republicana. Por decía, al final a mí lo que me interesa es que el que llegue haga lo que dijo y que sea para el bien de la nación, que yo creo que eso es lo que todos deberíamos de perseguir en un candidato, pues,
Sí,
al final.
exacto, exacto. Alejándonos de fanatismo, de cosas que al final
Claro,
no llevan a ninguna parte. Completamente de acuerdo.
sí. ¿Sabes qué se
El
me
fanatismo bien
olvidó?
utilizado es una herramienta que te lleva al poder. Pero como líder tenés que saber justamente después de eso, habiendo llegado donde tenés que estar, bueno,
Ajá,
elaborar con consenso, porque si no se te
sí.
cae todo.
Sí, además lo otro que le quería preguntar a Gracie, que se me olvidó, cuando ella decía, yo le quería preguntar, what do you mean when you said that you are a new Democrat? Esa parte, the
Claro.
new Democrat. Mm.
Bueno, yo creo que en ese caso se refería justamente al hecho de que en el pasado el Partido Demócrata estuvo caracterizando mucho por tener ser muy fluffy, ¿viste? Muy blandito, muy acolchonadito,
Ajá, exacto.
que sí, que hombres, mujeres y unicornios son todo lo mismo. Dice, no,
Exactamente.
sí, ella no es así. Eh, pero creo que eso, pero justamente en otra parte le dice, bueno, yo de la izquierda, por lo
Ujú.
cual también ahí tenemos, viste, sos de la izquierda, pero tampoco te gusta que te digan comunista.
Pero es que sos. El tema es que sos.
Claro, o sea, o sos de izquierda o está todo tan corrido hacia la derecha que cualquiera es de izquierda, también puede ser eso,
Sí.
¿viste? Eh, Esa es la cosa. Tiendo a verla desde ese punto de vista. O sea, no es que sea tanto diferente la cosa entre uno y otro, porque agarrás a un democrático del centro, algunos del centro están iguales. O
Sí.
sea, sí, va a cambiar alguna cosa desde el punto de vista de la política económica, tal vez de política exterior, pero más de eso no. Entonces, también estamos hablando, ¿viste? Creo que estamos un poco desacomodados porque hablamos con nomenclatura antigua. Vos y yo hablamos justamente de comunistas y de derecha, de nazistas y de qué sé yo. Esa cosa ya no existe más. ¿Viste? Es como que te digan fascista cuando vas por la calle.
Bueno, pero
Ha cambiado todo.
pero no creas, ellos empujan mucho ese tema de, bueno, si ese tema de Hitler, esa,
Bueno,
esa,
claro.
esa
Sí, 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 pero no
no
me...
retórica, ¿cómo es que ese discurso, eh,
No, no, claro, pero lo que voy es que no se apega a la realidad. Completamente de
claro,
acuerdo,
obvio.
todo lo habla. Claro, o sea, realmente, o sea, si a vos te dicen facho, fascista, o nazista, o comunista
Ujú.
de qué sé yo, o rojito, no es así. Estamos justamente exacerbando una característica de nuestro oponente porque nos queda cómodo. Pero ahí es que estamos fallando, me parece a mí, ambas partes, ¿verdad?
Sí,
Porque
sí.
ni ella es comunista, nosotros somos fascistas, y mucho menos.
Totalmente.
Claro, claro, sí, sí, entonces se trata de eso, como justamente uno encuentra, me parece, en este momento histórico, estamos encontrando problemas en poner la nomenclatura nueva a las cosas. No es lo que era antes y justamente ahora, si bien justamente hablamos de 100 años atrás, lo que dictaba una parte y la otra podían ser las ideas, la filosofía, ahora es mucho más la parte económica. Entonces, ¿cómo te vas a llamar ahora? Claro, que sos un monetista,
Sí,
sos un
ya
purista,
no.
¿viste? Claro, está jodido. Habría que ver desde dónde afrontar el discurso. Podría ser bueno para un episodio más madurado, tal vez inventar algún politólogo, inventar algún justamente filósofo para que nos ayude a desentrincar esto, porque me parece a mí que es una de las claves de la
Sí, sí,
nomenclatura
sí.
desactualizada.
Sí, mira, estuvo interesante la postura de ella. Realmente la vi full, así, cruz calavera, como decimos nosotros con Trump.
Sí, tal cual, cruz
Pero,
diablo, sí.
mira, es que al final, bueno, ellos lo viven, ¿me entendés?
Claro,
Eso es lo que ellos viven. Nosotros, pues, obviamente, vos estás allá, yo acá. No es
cosa que
nuestro
de
día
aquí
a
es
día.
fácil también, ¿cierto?
Claro, es que desde
Sí.
afuera, ¿me entendés? Todo el mundo. Pero yo creo que los números también, fíjate que se me olvidó decirle, por ejemplo, PBD, el podcast de Patrick
Mm.
Bet David, el man cuando saca las estadísticas de realmente lo que fue Trump versus lo que fue Biden, oíme, es que los números no te los puedes bancar, pues. Esa es la cuestión.
Exacto, era que yo le decía a ella justamente,
Exactamente.
hay blanco y blanco y negro y
Sí,
negro. O sea, como te diga, esto es una taza, no me puedes decir que es un elefante, esto es una
sí,
taza.
exactamente. Vos
Sí,
se lo
sí,
dijiste bien claro, pues al final del día. Por eso te decía, pues que me parece que una postura bien recalcitrante, ¿va? En ese tema, pero está
totalmente.
bien, pues, está bien. ¿Sabes qué? Hubiera sido bueno tener, o para la próxima, invitar a un republicano de hueso colorado, ¿va? Así, a
Sí, sí,
full,
sí, sí.
¿va?
Bueno, ahí hagámoslo, yo me siento, me compro popcorn y me pongo a mirar nada
Sí.
más. Eso va a estar buenísimo.
A ver,
¿Verdad?
a ver cómo está la cosa, sí, porque no, ¿me entendiste? Escuchar las dos posturas como tal, pues. Pero mira,
Absolutamente.
desde las posturas que trae Trump, tal vez no en todo lo que su plan de gobierno va a hacer, pero en temas de familia, esa vaina de la agenda woke y todo eso, oíme, para mí es más que suficiente, pues.
Sí, sí,
¿Me
sí.
entendés?
También, sí, 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 completamente de acuerdo. Si bien, como también le decía a Grace, creo yo que al final eso va a pasar a ser un tema secundario, sino terciario. Si la
Mm.
economía va bien, si el resto va bien, se acomoda todo. Al final son esas cosas de las que nos gusta hablar, pero a la hora de la hora, si el americano medio puede justamente pagar sus deudas, traer dinero a casa, ahorrar, progresar, etcétera, a la final, si te he visto no me acuerdo.
Sí, tal cual. Era lo que yo te
Sí, sí, sí.
decía, lo que decía Andy Frisella. Al final del día, yo ni
Exacto.
republicano ni el otro. Por eso le decía a ella, o sea, con eso de MAGA, ¿va? Make America Great Again. Pues, o sea, vos como gringo, ¿cómo no vas a querer o sea, que levanten a tu país? Pues que sea esa potencia que añorás. O sea,
Sí, obvio.
A mí me
A full.
parece que bueno, eso es lo que todo americano quisiera, pues. Es como nosotros
Sí.
acá, pues. ¿Me entendés? Que hablaba con un amigo el otro día y, óyeme, a mí igual me engañaron políticamente hablando, pues, porque por el tipo que yo
Te lo
voté,
dije, en su momento te lo dije,
sí, y
totalmente.
bien me dijiste vos, izquierdista, Bazooki's. Por la
Claro,
gente que
zurdo.
nosotros votamos, nada que ver. O sea, al final del día no hicieron nada.
Bueno, pasa que en América Latina tenemos otra dicotomía que es aún más complicada, porque tenemos
Ujú,
al tipo que lleva más o menos bien el país, pero sabemos que es corrupto,
ujú.
y que se roba, viste, hasta el agua de los floreros, o quien aparece como una promesa de cambio, pero con poquísimas luces, viste, que ya se ve que se va a mandar una cagada tras otra. Entonces, viste, está esa cosa, viste, de la esperanza futura de una cosa que podría suceder en contra de la evidencia ya probadísima de que este me la va a poner. Entonces, está complicado. Creo que está aún peor en América Latina, justamente. O en otros países parecidos. O sea, hemos tenido unas cosas parecidas en Grecia, en España en su momento.
Sí,
Bueno, no
claro.
hablemos de asiático. Claro. Entonces, bueno, son países un poquito más complicados. Yo pienso que el americano, igual, dentro de todo, está bendecido con un sistema que realmente, dentro de todo, funciona. A mí cuando la chica esta Grace me habla justamente de un poder judicial corrupto, yo le digo, bueno, a ver, poné el canal 7 de la Argentina, a ver lo que ves todos los días, querida. O sea, está mucho peor la Argentina.
Sí,
Y
tal
repito,
cual.
no por eso la estoy defendiendo, ni pienso que esté bien que esté así la Argentina, pero digo, es una realidad lamentable con la cual nos venimos confundiendo hace mucho tiempo.
No, tal cual.
Sí, 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 sí. Así que bueno, yo te diría, Mauro, ¿estás de acuerdo? De aquí en más, sería interesante poner en preparación un episodio siguiente en el cual se hable justamente de esto desde un punto de vista un poquito más, de una cosmovisión más grande, ¿verdad? Más macro.
Ujú.
Ver lo que puede y lo que no puede traer cada parte. Decías vos, hacer un pro versus contra, republicano contra democrático, ver qué se hace y por otra parte también, eventualmente, ver cómo hacemos para redefinir estos nuevos roles políticos que estamos viendo ahora, que justamente nos traen tanta confusión, no sabemos quién es quién.
Tal cual. Yo creo que eso es importante. Vamos a ver a quién invitamos de esa parte y listo. Te cuento que hoy hice un podcast interesante acerca del anticristo, un tema que con vos hablamos.
Es lo que te iba a decir, contanos.
Mira, desarrollé ese programa en la radio de un amigo, de Rudy. Si no me equivoco, déjame ver, es que este man como tiene varias radios, ya te voy a decir en qué canal. Mira, en Estéreo Sula se llama el lugar, 100.1 FM. Ahí vamos a estar a las 5 de la tarde. Ya se pregrabó, ahí lo van a tirar en vivo. Y bueno, vamos a hacer eso. Entonces, invité a Rudy para que pudiéramos desarrollar un programa acerca de la música y cómo esa cuestión afecta negativamente a las generaciones, pues. Entonces, aquí lo vamos a tener al Rudy en el programa para ver qué tal.
Excelente.
Entonces,
Y
Gus,
si
yo
tenés
no
el
sé.
link de la empresa. No,
Dime,
no.
dime.
Digo, si tenés el link justamente del programa de Rudy para que escuchemos la entrevista que ya hiciste, ponela, por favor, así te podemos seguir, porque
Sí,
ahí vamos a estar todos
fíjate
pendientes,
que,
¿verdad?
mira, ve, lo voy a poner aquí en el chat.
Pero en
Vamos
el
a ver,
chat, sí, yo pienso que más de uno va a estar interesado.
Estéreo Sula. Ese es el programa. Ahí va a estar en Instagram. Esto es en Instagram. Va, para quien tenga chance y quiera escuchar algo diferente, pues lo puede escuchar por ahí. Good, pues yo creo que con esto cerramos, pues.
Ahí estamos, exactamente.
Y
Nada,
estamos
mi
a full para
agradecimiento
la
como siempre,
próxima.
Mauro. Claro, bueno, un placer aquí como siempre estar ahí cohosteando contigo y coming soon nos vemos.
Dale, pues. Excelente, Gus. Cuídate.
Adiós,
Che, que
querido.
che. Cuídate. Bueno, pues hemos llegado al final del programa. Creo que fue algo diferente escuchar posturas realmente disonantes para algunos y de repente para otros, pues, que apoyan estos criterios también. Y bueno, no sin antes decirle que independientemente quién esté en la presidencia, Jesús sigue siendo el rey. Nos vemos.
Yeah, from apologetics to politics, breaking down economies, but it's with a twist. Reacting to news, expose the truth. Hosted by Mara with a Christian worldview. Yeah, the true king is Jesus. You ain't gotta wonder why the world's at war. Governments may crumble. These chaotic times, it's the light we chose. Removing the veil, everything exposed. You ready? Let's go.